She said her father was better than me. So I stopped paying her rent. She didn't even look up when she said it. Fork halfway to her mouth, phone in the other hand, scrolling like my words didn't matter. My dad would never live like this, she said. My father actually knows how to provide. I smiled. Slow. Calm. Perfect, I said. Then let him start paying your rent. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was lethal. My son froze. His fork stopped midair. Rent? He asked. What rent? Have you ever watched someone realize, all at once, that the person they've been draining dry just closed the faucet? My name is Angela Brooks. I'm a 64-year-old black woman living in DeKalb County, Georgia. Widow. Retired. Mother of one. And for 16 months, I paid $1,600 a month so my daughter-in-law could pretend I didn't exist. We were sitting at my dining room table. The same table my late husband, Harold, bought in 1991 from a Sears that doesn't exist anymore. One leg still wobbles. I never fixed it because Harold used to joke it gave the table character. I'd cooked fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread baked in the cast-iron skillet. The smell filled the house the way it used to when my son, Marcus, was little. She had just finished comparing me to her father. He's disciplined, she said. Successful. Knows how to build wealth. That's when the words left my mouth. Then let him pay your rent. Her face drained. Not angry. Not offended. Scared. Mom, Marcus said slowly. What are you talking about? I looked straight at his wife. Tell him, I said. You've been so comfortable telling everyone else. 16 months. $1,600 every month. $25,600 total. Plus the $3,000, emergency, when the baby was born. Plus the $1,200, temporary loan, for her car repairs. Plus the $800, just this once, grocery money. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. Ask your wife, I said. Ask her why she told me you couldn't know. Marcus turned to her. Is this true? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That's the thing about lies. They need oxygen. And I had just shut the windows. 16 months earlier, she showed up at my door crying. Not pretty crying. The kind where the mascara runs and the breathing sounds panicked. She said Marcus had lost his job. She said the rent was overdue. She said her father couldn't help because his money was tied up. Her words, not mine. I'll pay you back, she said. Just until Marcus gets back on his feet. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. I transferred the first $1,600 on a Tuesday morning. Watched my savings drop from $41,000 to $39,400. Emergency money. Money Harold left me, just in case. I told myself it would be temporary. Temporary turned into routine. Every first of the month, like clockwork. $1,600. Again. And again. And again. She said she couldn't work. But her nails were always done. Hair always braided fresh. Photos online of brunch, spa days, shopping bags. She said she was struggling. But she wore new clothes every week. Designer baby items. Weekend trips. I saw it all. And I told myself the same lie I told myself years ago with Harold. You're imagining things. Don't cause trouble. Be patient. That lie buried my husband. And it almost buried me. One night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the same table with the wobbly leg and opened my banking app. I added it all up. $29,400. I felt sick. The next day, I asked my neighbor's daughter, an accounting student, to help me look through the numbers. Nothing illegal. Just patterns. 2 weeks later, she sat across from me with a folder. "Mrs. Brooks," she said gently. "Your daughter-in-law has been getting money from her father the entire time. $1,200 a month. Every month. Plus her freelance income. Plus Marcus's paycheck after he found a new job. They were making more than I ever did. And still taking my money. But that wasn't the worst part. When my grandson was born, I gave her something precious. Harold's gold watch. Engraved with his initials. For the baby," she said. "I'll keep it safe." She pawned it. $380. 35 years of marriage traded for grocery money she didn't even need. That's when something in me went cold. "I practiced this conversation," I said calmly. "In the mirror. For 3 days. Marcus looked broken. "You told her I couldn't know?" he asked his wife. She started crying then. Real crying this time. "I was going to tell you," she whispered. I leaned forward. "You erased me," I said. "You took my money, my peace, my husband's memory. And then you had the nerve to say your father was better than me." I stood up. "So here's the good news," I said. "You don't owe me anything anymore." She looked relieved. "Because I'm done paying your rent." What Marcus didn't know was that I had copies of everything. Bank statements. Transfers. Pawn receipts. And what neither of them knew yet was that the house they were living in, the one I'd been paying taxes on for 30 years, was going back to being mine. But that confrontation didn't happen that night. Because first, I let them sit in the silence. And silence, when the truth finally shows up, is louder than any scream. The silence didn't end when dinner did. It followed them down the hallway. Followed them into the guest room they had turned into a master suite. Followed me into my bedroom, the one place in the house Wendy hadn't fully taken yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad. Because my mind was finally clear. At 4:12 a.m., I got out of bed, wrapped myself in Harold's old robe, and opened the folder I'd been building for months. Bank statements. Transfer confirmations. Screenshots. The pawn receipt folded so many times it was soft as cloth. I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in a small law office off Memorial Drive, across from a woman named Cynthia Lewis. Black woman. Early 50s. Sharp eyes. No nonsense. She flipped through my documents slowly. "Mrs. Brooks," she said finally, "you've been financially exploited." I nodded. I already knew that. "And the house?" I asked. She looked up. "It's yours. Fully paid off. They have no lease. No tenant rights. You were covering their rent elsewhere, but here. They're guests." Guests. The word tasted strange after everything. "So I can ask them to leave?" I asked. "You can give them notice," she said. 30 days. Or less, if you can prove emotional or financial abuse. I slid the pawn receipt across the desk. She didn't smile. But her eyes hardened. "Mrs. Brooks," she said, "you could ask them to leave immediately." I drove home gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. When I walked into my house, Wendy was on the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling on her phone like she owned the place. My grandson was napping in the portable crib they'd set up in the living room. I stood there and looked around. At the gray furniture I never chose. The art I never liked. The house that no longer looked like me. Hey, Wendy said without looking up. Did you grab oat milk? We're out. That was it. That was the moment. No, I said. I didn't. She finally looked at me. Also, I continued, my voice steady, you have 30 days to move out. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're serious, she said. Angela, where would we even go? I didn't raise my voice. That, I said, is not my problem anymore. She sat up then. Fear flickered across her face before she masked it with anger. You can't do this, she snapped. Marcus will never forgive you. Marcus came home that evening to a house that felt different. Quieter. Heavier. I handed him the notice. 30 days. In writing. He read it once. Then again. You're kicking us out? He asked, his voice breaking. With the baby? I'm reclaiming my home, I said. There's a difference. She exploded. After 16 months of calm manipulation, Wendy finally cracked. She accused me of being bitter. Lonely. Jealous. She said I'd never liked her. That I was trying to control them. I let her talk. Then I opened the folder and set it on the table. One document at a time. Transfers. Dates. Amounts. Her freelance income. Her father's monthly deposits. The pawn receipt. Marcus's hands started shaking. You sold my dad's watch, he whispered. She tried to explain. It wasn't a good explanation. That night, Marcus slept on the couch. 3 days later, Wendy stopped speaking to me entirely. She packed boxes loudly during the day, slammed cabinets, posted vague quotes online about toxic people and protecting your peace. I didn't respond. On the 29th day, a moving truck pulled up. Barbara didn't come. Her father didn't either. They never do when the truth shows up. Marcus hugged me before he left. Held on longer than he had in years. I'm sorry, Mom, he said quietly. I didn't see it. I know, I said. Neither did I. At first. They drove away. The house was silent again. But this time, it felt like relief. I spent the next week putting my home back together. I rehung the photographs. Brought my dishes back out. Put Harold's robe back on the hook where it belonged. I sat at my table, the one with the wobbly leg, and drank coffee slowly. My savings account isn't what it used to be. But my house is mine. My peace is mine. My dignity is mine. And the money? That was expensive tuition. But the lesson? I'll never forget it. Because the moment she said her father was better than me was the moment I remembered who I was. The house didn't stay quiet for long. 2 weeks after they left, my phone rang at 7:18 a.m. Marcus's name lit up the screen. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Mom, he said, voice low, exhausted. We need to talk. I already knew what that meant. They had moved in with her father. The man who was better than me. At first, everything was fine. That's how it always starts. Then the rules came. No guests without permission. No cooking after 8 p.m. No rearranging furniture. No extra noise from the baby. 3 adults. 1 infant. 1 house. And 1 man who believed control was the same as providing. He says we're ungrateful, Marcus told me. That we're draining him. I almost laughed. Almost. He wants us out, Marcus said. By the end of the month. I closed my eyes. Funny how generosity looks different when it's not invisible. And Wendy? I asked. There was a pause. She says you poisoned me against her. I let that sit between us. Marcus, I said gently, I didn't say a word about her father. He's doing that all on his own. Silence. Then he said the words I'd been waiting for. Mom, can we come back? I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't love my son. Because love without boundaries is how I lost $29,400. I love you, I said finally. But my answer is no. He inhaled sharply. You're choosing money over your family? He asked. I leaned back in my chair. No, I said. I'm choosing myself. He hung up. That night, Wendy texted me for the first time in weeks. A long message. Too long. She apologized. Then blamed stress. Then blamed postpartum hormones. Then blamed me. I didn't respond. At 11:42 p.m., another message came in. You'll regret this. I screenshotted it. Old habits die hard. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From her father. He thanked me for finally understanding my place. He said a woman my age should be grateful to be needed. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny. Because it was familiar. Men like him count on women like me believing our value expires with our usefulness. I tore the letter in half. The next month, something unexpected happened. My church asked if I'd be willing to speak at a women's luncheon. They'd heard I'd been through something. I almost said no. Then I remembered how long I stayed silent. I stood at a podium in a room full of black women of every age. I told the truth. About love. About guilt. About money. About how easily helping turns into erasing yourself. Women cried. Women nodded. One woman hugged me and said, "You just saved me 10 years." That's when I realized something. What Wendy took from me wasn't just money. It was my voice. And I had it back. Marcus called again months later. Shorter this time. Softer. He told me they were separating. I didn't celebrate. I didn't say I told you so. I listened. I'm in therapy, he said. I'm trying to understand why I let it happen. I was proud of him. But pride doesn't mean access. We meet for lunch sometimes. Just us. He pays. Wendy never contacted me again. The last I heard, she was telling people I was cold. Maybe. But I sleep through the night now. I drink my coffee slowly. I walk through my house without feeling like a guest. And when people ask me if I regret stopping the rent payments, I tell them the truth. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. Time has a way of finishing conversations you thought were over. Almost a year after the house went quiet again, I ran into Wendy at the grocery store. Frozen foods aisle. Right between the waffles and the bags of ice. She looked thinner. Tired. Still perfectly put together in the way exhaustion can't quite hide. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. Careful. Measured. Angela, she said. You look, well. I am, I replied. And I meant it. She glanced at my cart. Fresh vegetables. Good coffee. The kind of food you buy when you're not feeding everyone else first. I heard Marcus is doing better, she said. He is, I said. Thank you. She shifted her weight. I never got a chance to really apologize, she said. Things got complicated. I nodded slowly. They usually do when the truth shows up late. Her smile faltered. She started talking faster then. About how hard things had been. About how alone she felt. About how she'd just been trying to survive. I listened. When she finished, she looked at me like she was waiting for something. Forgiveness. Permission. Money. I hope you find what you need, I said. That was it. No lecture. No argument. No reopening doors I worked hard to close. She blinked. That's all? She asked. Yes, I said. That's all. She watched me walk away. I didn't look back. A few months later, I did something I never thought I would. I took a trip. Nothing extravagant. Just Savannah. A small hotel near the water. Long walks. No one needing anything from me. I brought Harold's robe with me. On the last night, I sat on the balcony and thought about how much of my life I'd spent being the strong one. The fixer. The fallback. The quiet solution. Strength, I learned, isn't how much you can carry. It's knowing when to put things down. My grandson turned 3 last spring. Marcus asked if I wanted to come to the party. I said yes. Wendy wasn't there. The room was filled with laughter, sticky fingers, cheap balloons, and the sound of a little boy calling me Grandma like it was the safest word he knew. That mattered. Marcus hugged me before I left. I'm glad you didn't give up on me, he said. I didn't, I answered. I just stopped sacrificing myself. He nodded. He understood now. People still ask me for advice. About money. About family. About when to walk away. I tell them this. If someone only respects you when you're useful, they don't respect you. And love that requires self-erasure isn't love. It's debt. I paid mine in full. And now, I live interest-free. The funny thing about peace is that it attracts attention. Once people realize you're no longer available for chaos, they start calling it distance. They say you've changed. They're right. 2 years after everything happened, my financial advisor asked me a question no one had ever asked me before. What do you want the next chapter to look like? I sat there longer than I meant to. For decades, my answers had been about everyone else. Security for my son. Stability for my family. Being ready, just in case. This time, I said something different. I want ease, I said. And I want joy without permission. I sold the house. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. I kept the table with the wobbly leg. Some things earn the right to come with you. I moved into a smaller place with big windows and a porch that catches the afternoon sun just right. I planted herbs in pots. I learned how to sit still without guilt. My money isn't endless. But it's honest. Every dollar has my name on it now. Marcus and I found our rhythm. Boundaries did that. We talk. We laugh. We don't rescue each other. He brings groceries sometimes. I let him. That's what balance looks like. He told me once, quietly, that watching me choose myself gave him permission to do the same. That was worth more than any rent check. I heard through the family grapevine that Wendy remarried. Good for her. I don't wish her harm. But I no longer wish her access. There's a difference. Last month, a young woman at church pulled me aside. Black. Mid-30s. Tired eyes. Too responsible too early. My sister says I owe her, she whispered. I pay her bills, watch her kids, cover her rent, and she still calls me selfish. I took her hands. You're not selfish, I said. You're just being drained. Her eyes filled with tears. I gave her my number. Not to fix her situation. To remind her she wasn't crazy. I don't call myself strong anymore. I call myself awake. Awake to manipulation dressed up as family. Awake to guilt pretending to be love. Awake to the quiet power of saying no. And if anyone ever tells me again that someone else is better than me because they control money or access or approval, I smile. Because I know something now they don't. The moment you stop paying the price of disrespect is the moment your life finally becomes your own. People think the story ends when the problem leaves. It doesn't. It ends when you stop waiting for an apology. 3 years after the rent stopped, I sat on my porch one evening, feet up, tea going cold beside me, watching the sun fall behind the trees. Nothing dramatic. No music swelling. Just quiet. And that's when I realized something. No one had needed me all day. No emergencies. No guilt calls. No, just this once. And instead of feeling empty, I felt free. Marcus came by that weekend. Just to visit. No tension. No asking. No unspoken debts between us. We talked about small things. Work. The weather. A show we both liked. Before he left, he paused at the door. You know, he said, for a long time, I thought love meant sacrifice. I raised an eyebrow. And now? I asked. Now I think love means responsibility, he said. For your choices. And your healing. I smiled. He learned it the hard way. So did I. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the woman I used to be. The one who apologized before setting boundaries. The one who paid to keep the peace. The one who thought being needed was the same as being valued. I don't judge her. She did what she knew. But I don't let her run my life anymore. My grandson calls me every Sunday now. Short conversations. Big feelings. He tells me about bugs he found, drawings he made, questions he doesn't expect answers to yet. I listen. That's all he needs. Presence without conditions. I've learned this. Closure doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from consistency. From choosing yourself again and again until it feels normal. From letting people misunderstand you, and living well anyway. So when people ask me how I could stop paying her rent, how I could turn my back on family, how I could live with myself, I tell them the truth. I didn't stop paying rent. I stopped paying for disrespect. For manipulation. For silence. And the day I did that was the day my life finally began. They say wisdom comes with age. That's not true. Wisdom comes when you finally get tired of bleeding quietly. For years after everything changed, I was invited to speak again, this time at a community center on the south side of Atlanta. The room was small. Folding chairs. Paper cups of coffee. Women who looked like they'd been holding everything together with prayer and duct tape. I didn't bring notes. I brought the truth. I told them how easy it is for a black woman to become the safety net for everyone else. How quickly, "you're so strong," turns into an expectation. How people start budgeting your money before you do. Heads nodded. Eyes dropped. Some women laughed that sad, knowing laugh. Afterward, a woman in her 20s came up to me. "My mom says I owe her," she whispered. "For raising me." I held her gaze. "Parents choose," I said. "Children don't. Love isn't alone." She cried. So did I. That night, I wrote something for myself and taped it to the inside of my kitchen cabinet. I am not a resource. I am a person. I read it every morning. Life is smaller now. And that's a good thing. I wake up without dread. I eat when I'm hungry. I rest without explaining why. Peace doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly, like a cat that finally trusts you enough to sleep. I still get messages sometimes. People who heard my story secondhand. People asking, "How did you do it?" I tell them it wasn't one brave moment. It was hundreds of small decisions to stop betraying myself. The last time I saw Wendy's name, it was in passing. A mutual acquaintance mentioned she'd moved again. New city. New start. I wished her well. And then I forgot about it. That's how you know something no longer has power over you. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. You don't have to be loud to be firm. You don't have to be cruel to be free. And you don't have to keep paying a price just because you've already paid so much. I paid enough. The rest of my life is mine. The last lesson came quietly. No confrontation. No phone call. No dramatic apology. Just clarity. 5 years after I stopped paying her rent, I was sitting at my kitchen table, new table this time, steady legs, sunlight pouring in like it had something to say. I was balancing my checkbook. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. And that's when it hit me. For the first time in my adult life, my money wasn't carrying anyone else's shame, secrets, or bad decisions. It was just money. Neutral. Honest. Calm. Later that afternoon, I got a message from a woman I'd spoken to years ago at that luncheon. "I left," she wrote. I was terrified. But I left. I stared at the screen for a long time. This was the part no one talks about. You never really know how far your courage travels. Marcus and I celebrated my birthday together that year. No big party. Just cake, laughter, and a quiet understanding between us. He handed me a small box. Inside was a watch. Not Harold's. A new one. Engraved on the back. To my mother. "Thank you for teaching me what love really is." I didn't cry. I smiled. Some wounds don't need tears to close. I don't chase peace anymore. I protect it. That means some people stay outside my life. That means some stories don't get retold. That means I don't explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. And I'm okay with that. If you're listening to this and you feel that tightness in your chest, that feeling that you're carrying too much for too many people, hear this. You don't owe anyone your destruction. You don't owe anyone silence. And you don't owe rent to someone who disrespects you. I learned that the hard way. So you don't have to. And that is the end of my story.